All right. Greetings. Hello, hey. It is officially 5/25, May 25th. And we are coming to you from St. Lucifer. St. Louis, Santa Louis. And we are fighting on. We are fighting and not giving up, at least not so far. And we're working every night, almost every night, reading or transmitting Mother's message. It's a psychic transmission. It's a runic transmission of the personality of a traditional European witch, which I don't even know. I've never met one besides Maria, and they seem like the best people ever. But the beautiful mother is with us. And I don't mean in spirit or something like that. I mean that she's in the park meditating on Venus. I know I live in this context. People might be tuning in for the first time. Like, what are you talking about? The world ended. We're living in the Matrix. And Maria Orsic is she's the girl who saved the world by inventing a UFO and taking the most spiritual Nazis to another dimension because of Lucifer, who had already prepared the way for a new civilization, I guess you could call it, under its energy dome cities on Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. 3 races. There was 3 original races. Doesn't matter what anyone says. You can tell me what books say. I already know what a lot of books say. And at one point, I had to decide if this was the Matrix, then I couldn't trust anything, especially information about Maria Orsic. I made a video somewhere talking about the only official things, at least, if I'm not crazy and she's not really here, or someone suggested to me she could be, impersonate, but it doesn't matter. The names don't matter. The truth is what matters. People are what matter. People are what save us, not God. God's not there. Whatever that is, your dog might be there, but for us, it's a cat world order. And a lot of rituals, and the ritual is just simply putting me in a space where I can better, see, hear, whatever, communicate. But a lot of rituals were spent in talking about how we live now in the future. And how let me point out there's one huge difference between Venus and the Matrix. The big giant difference is people live a long thousands of years or even millions in the same body as the same as the same personality, unless they go crazy. And people do go crazy. They have all kinds of different things. I mean, it's rare. It's a lot less than here. And that doesn't mean anything bad. It just means that in dealing with eternity, um, you're breaking down, and you'll be you will be rebuilt. The big difference, though, is no, we think eternally. We think in a long distance in time um, context. We don't. So we are thinking about like what am I going to do for the next 1,000 years? Or I'm serious, and there's not many pressures where we come from. You know, like there is here with money, a place to live. I mean, in America, it's so sketchy for most people who are working people that, some bad shit could happen. You lose your job, you're homeless. You know, America is the least caring country that, I don't know if I guess it's all the same. But at least the governments around the world, at least they have at least they have um, the self-awareness as a government and know that they're fucking the people and they give them a little bit of something. In America, I mean, there's nothing free. There's no help from the government unless you're willing to become like their fucking robot clone and spend, all your time meeting with them and telling them why you need help with food or, but there's not really that help. It's very hard to obtain. There's absolutely no free health, anything, anywhere, and all the prices are jacked up like you can't believe. I just want to let people know that, and there's like a tension, a class tension of like, well, you're working class because you didn't go to college and you are dumb or something like that. That even is being overturned because I work. I work delivering things, and most of the people I work with, or at least some of them, I shouldn't say most, some of them, like my friend, he has a college degree in like, I can't remember, like criminal something. And he just didn't really want to, this pays more. Yeah. Yeah. And he just delivers shit. He's got University of Missouri. I'm sure it costs plenty of money. So there's the unschooled who are like, yeah, schooling is a job program. It is a job training program in hopes of collecting your taxes by your overlord government is controlling the universities and the whole system. You start really studying the schooling system, the background information. Okay, where did this curriculum come from? Where did American public school get its, blueprint? Where did it get its fucking information? Look it up. And surprise, surprise, you turn over that stone, and surprise, surprise, a lot of little bankers go scurrying. And, I want people to know we're not into positive thinking or any of that fucking nonsense. We are into being fucking real. And these people are ripping you off. They're fucking killing people. They rip you off with the usury, which, how is that? How is that happening? In the richest country in America, we can't get interest-free loans no matter who you are, except if you're a banker, right? In the richest country in the world with all the fucking money in the world can't lend its own people money. Its own money. No, it can't. And the 54-part mini-series, maxi series, maximum 10-season show called The Epstein Files keeps rolling on, doesn't it? And we have I hope somehow I can remember this, but I want to call this episode, this little video, Hail Katie Johnson. A pretty strong 13-year-old, 14-year-old girl who was raped and slapped and abused by your president and told the truth, went against the powers to be. And someone might say, how do you know she's telling the truth? Well, from a certain point on, there's no turning point back. That's the point that must be reached. You're the fucking idiot. If you think this little girl is telling this story and this motherfucker became the president by coincidence, that there's no connection there with the Epstein files. The Epstein files. The Epstein files, nigga. You know what I mean? It's flooding the fucking zone like you can't believe. And before we get to our reading, tonight's little focus is on Wotan, Odin, Lucifer. And Maria, I don't prepare for these. I would. But Maria doesn't want me to because she prepares for these. She's got a plan. She's the teacher. She is the fucking teacher. But I call her the office manager because she manages us. She tells us, come on, let's get going. Not in a rude way. I never want to, I just want to say how beautiful she is too every single night. I like how she dresses. Earlier tonight, she was shaking her ass like a go-go dancer, she said. We love her. She's sitting right here. She's the best. She's the best person ever. To me. Wotan, Lord of Hosts by Miguel Serrano. C.G. Jung affirmed that Wotan was the god of lightning, the storm bringer. But Wotan is more than that. He is also the god of poetry, love, and war. Without doubt whatsoever, the God of the Christians, who has come to replace Wotan, impersonating him, is no more than a poor imitation. One cannot even say this Christian counterfeit is a reincarnation of the archetype, but rather he is Wotan's executioner. It was from the Irminsul at the Externstein, the ancient megalithic monument in Horn, Germany, that the followers of the destroyer Charlemagne appropriated the symbol of the cross and concocted the crucifixion of Christ. Indeed, it was already Wotan historically donned the titles Lord of Hosts, God of Love. The mystical death and resurrection in the flesh on the third day correspondingly are a plagiarism of the resurrection of Wotan on the ninth day on the Irminsul cross, having recovered the runic Futhark which has been lost in the paradise of Hyperborea, and thus enabled him to deliver the new word and dispensation to the fallen Aryans, who were momentarily oblivious to their divine origin. There at the extern side is found the stone sculpture of the mystical death, replicating the Hyperborean resurrection of the initiation. Further, it was there whither the Odinic priestesses, the Valkyries, came to gather Wotan's slain warriors to ensure their immortality and eternal life. This entire glorious path of the initiate to be destined to a caste, to a Aryan elite, vanished with the destruction and conversion of the Saxons to Christianity. Or rather, perfidious Christianized Wotanism. Derailed by the well-planned and all-pervasive banker deception of Saul. That would be St. Paul. This is Lou, the author, who tricked you with St. Paul, the pole that is connecting all the Christians. Don't even fucking exist. The author is sitting right over there. And you might be, well, who the fuck do you think you are? You're nobody. Why would Lucifer pick you? You'll have to ask him. I don't know. And you can, I truly don't give a fuck at this point whether every single human being doesn't believe me. I live in the context of slowly actually being shown to me that there's more to reality. You know, everyone will be like, hey, smart guy physicist said so. Well, see, I don't even care what that motherfucker says. Only, what matters to me, the experience that I'm having inside of me is like some kind of crazy psychic mirror connection, transmitter, transistor. I don't know. But that's where I think real life is lived, in my opinion. This glorious, glorious path of the initiate is to be destined to a caste, right? It was the German Schützenstaffel who, one way or another, without the need to declare it, caused the resurgence of the path of the Externstein. The great spear extended from Wivelsburg to the sacred stones of Westphalia, symbolizing the route of return. In the gathering hall in this castle of Armenschaft initiation, where the symbol of the black sun was inlaid in the floor, there hung from the ceiling in suspended animation over one of the portals a great stone from the legendary temple of Externstein. At the end of our time, our Volk leader will return for the wild hunt, the wilds here, with his final battalion, astride a white horse, Sleipnir, his 8-legged steed. He will be the last avatar, also known as Wotan, Vishnu, Kalki. This time, he will come to conquer and judge. Hail Lou. Hail Big Lou. Hail Lucifer, Wotan, Odin, Vishnu, Shiva. He's also Shiva. He is Lord Shiva and will be right. I gotta pause just a second. We'll be right back with more on Odin, Woden, Lucifer. Okay. Here we go. We will be reading from the great H.B. Gerber, The Norseman. And the reason we're doing this, the reason I am the way I am, is I am Maria's son back on Venus. She's got many. But I happen to work for her after being her son. Usually, someone's her son for 5 or 7 years. They go off, they do what they do, they stay in touch with her. It's it's a teacher. You don't come out of her womb, or she don't birth you. We're not born like that. And but me and her, we have a very crazy astrological fit, for one thing. And I know people say I looked up her astrology, and that you just don't know what you're really dealing with when you're dealing with the matrix and the magic behind it. But she's a Scorpio, Leo, Virgo rising. I'm a Leo, Scorpio, Virgo rising, you know. And that's why the enemy played her off. That's why, let me tell you something real quick. The reason why the Catholic Church put Marys in the images of Mary, this picture of this white Mary, even with sometimes even with like lighter hair, blue eyes, all over the world, in every fucking country, everywhere, all over the world. Mary, 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 Mary. You know why? They were using the great Maria Orsic in our subconsciouses, what she looks like and everything, to suck your money away and fucking curse you. You know, and like when I endorsed this young girl had a terrible experience of her horse dying. Like Maria said, Maria had horses. And when her horse Georgia died, she cried for 3 days without stopping. She said, I just couldn't stop. It was embarrassing, even. But she was like, I was weeping for the world to lose this energy of this beautiful being. Like she said, if you don't think animals can be gods, then you're retarded. Your dog really is your god. You're like, what are you fucking talking about? Unconditional love. You don't give a motherfuck about everywhere, all powerful, all knowing, blah, blah, blah. You're like, I want someone that loves me and doesn't never, no matter what I do, you know. And there's assholes out there that abuse their animals and laugh and go, look at how it still loves me. Cunts. But they only just prove my point that they are like little gods. And so are plants. The mushrooms most certainly are the most mysterious little gods that ever existed. For real. And if you don't have any relationship with the magic mushroom, you're fucking retarded. You got brain damage. You should be microdosing at the very least, every single day. This is something like a supplement that is extraordinarily good for you. And you should be not giving up on the 5 gram initiation. You can initiate yourself. Make sure you're safe. You're not going to go crazy or anything. You might emotionally cry or something. You might, remember something emotional. Or you may even be scared. My son, he was like, I think he was 15 or something, 14, 15, because it's very important to introduce people to the fullness of reality. It's not really fair, even. If you know that reality is more than what we, 5 senses, and you don't try to do something for your children to prove that, it's not really good parenting. That's not good parenting. I shouldn't say really. It's not good parenting. It's not good leadership. Whoever's leading your family don't know what the fuck they're doing. Obviously. This is where the real power comes from. It comes from astral magic. It comes from you think that you create reality with your fucking thoughts, then create a reality where people don't get cancer, where people don't fucking kill each other, where people don't drop, where 19-year-old kids don't press buttons to kill little girls in a girls' school. Why can't you create well, and then you'll have to admit you can only create the reality within yourself and within you. You're the whole universe, and out there don't really matter. And when you start there, like hold it, it's all in here. That's when maybe you can start to fight with these people about the Matrix. That's literally what we're here doing. We're here in a contest of like, I'll fucking fight you over what's going to happen. And they're like, because you're in technology. You're in technology. It's a simulated time, space, and chance. Chance equaling time and space and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Go ask your physics teacher, the boring cunt. Sorry, I don't mean to pick on teachers, but I'm not a schooling person. I think this is banker bullshit. Look at, do your fucking research. Look under the fucking money. Look where the money's coming from to fund all of this, right? Wotan, Odin, father of the gods. Father, Odin, Wotan, the father of gods and men. Odin, Woden, or even Woden, was the highest and holiest god of the northern races. He was the all-pervading spirit of the universe. You hear that? The personification of air. The god of universal wisdom and victory, and the leader and protector of princes and heroes. As all the gods were supposed to be descended from him, he was surnamed Allfather, and as eldest and chief among them, he occupied the highest seat in Asgard, known by the name Hilda Sky Elf. Hilda Sky Elf. Wow, Hild Sky Elf. This chair was not only an exalted throne, this is the throne I've seen Lucifer on, but also a mighty watchtower from whence he could overlook the whole world and see at a glance all that was happening among gods, giants, elves, dwarves, and men, all of reality. From the Edda, from the hall of heaven he rode away to Lidskjalf and sat upon his throne, the mount from whence his eye surveys the world, and far from heaven he turned his shining orbs to look on Midgard and the earth and men. Odin's appearance, none but Odin, and his wife, the queen Frigga, were privileged to use the seat, and when they occupied it, they generally gazed towards the south and the west, the goal of all the hopes and excursions of the northern nations. Odin was generally represented as a tall, vigorous man about 50 years of age, either with dark curling hair or with a long gray beard and a bald head. He was clad in a suit. You hear that? He's the god of dudes that lose their hair. You know, it's a terrible thing to watch yourself disintegrate. I am. He was clad in a suit of gray, with a blue hood, and his muscular body was enveloped in a wide blue mantle flecked with gray, an emblem of the sky with its fleecy clouds. In his hand, Odin generally carried the infallible spear of Gungnir, Gungnir, which was so sacred that an oath sworn upon its point could never be broken. And on the infallible spear, Gungnir, which was so sacred that an oath sworn upon its point could never be broken, and on his finger or arm he wore a marvelous ring. Draupnir, the emblem of fruitfulness, precious beyond compare. When seated upon his throne, are armed for the fray, to mingle in which he would often descend to earth. Odin wore his eagle helmet, but when he wandered peacefully about the earth in human guise to see what men were doing, he generally donned a broad brimmed hat drawn low over his forehead to conceal the fact that he possessed but one eye, like my cat. Two ravens, Hungin and Munin, thought and memory. That's you. Two ravens, Hungin and Munin, perched upon his shoulders as he sat upon his throne. And these he sent out into the wide world every morning, anxiously watching for the return at nightfall, when they whispered into his ears news of all they had seen and heard. Thus he was kept well informed about everything that was happening on earth. Hungin and Munin fly each day over the spacious earth. I fear for Hungin that he not come back, yet more anxious am I for Munin, thought and memory. At his feet, and that little poem was showing you just how important it is to remember. It's more important to remember than to keep your sanity, actually. At his feet crouched two wolves, hunting hounds, Jerry and Freaky. Jerry and Freaky, animals which were therefore considered sacred to him and of good omen if met by the way. Yeah, when you see his dogs, it's good luck. I like that. Odin always feeds these wolves with his own hands from meat set before him. He required no food at all for himself and seldom tasted anything except the sacred mead. Gary and Freaky, the war wont sates, the triumph sire of hope, of hosts. But only wine, the famed in arms, Odin ever lives. When seated in state upon his throne, Odin rested his feet upon a footstool of gold and the work of the gods, all of whose furniture and utensils were fashioned either of that precious metal or of silver. Besides the magnificent hall Gladsheim, where stood the 12 seats occupied by the gods when they met in council, and Valvaska Val, Val as, I don't know how to say these things, Val as Kaialf, where his throne, Hildeskjalf, was placed. Hildeskjalf, I don't like that. Odin had a third palace in Asgard, situated in the midst of the marvelous grove Glacier, whose shimmering leaves were of red gold. Wow. Valhalla. This place called Valhalla, the Hall of the Chosen Slain, had 540 doors, wide enough to allow the passage of 800 warriors abreast. And above the principal gate were a boar's head and an eagle whose piercing glance penetrated to the far corners of the world. The walls of this marvelous building were fashioned of glittering spears, so highly polished that they illuminated the hall. The roof was of golden shields, and the benches were decorated with fine armor, and the god's gifts to his guest. Here, long tables afforded ample accommodation for the in here warriors fallen in battle, who were specifically favored by Odin. In here, easily to be known is by those who Odin come. The mansion by its aspect, its roof with spears is laid, its hall with shields is decked. The corselets are its benches stewed. Wow. Kind of Lord of the Rings-ish. Is this where Tolkien got some of his ideas? I'm sure. The feasts. I don't know much about Tolkien, so I can't really say, but it sure feels like it, right? The Feast of the Heroes. The ancient northern nations, who deemed warfare the most honorable of occupations and considered courage the greatest virtue, worshipped Odin principally as god of battle and victory. They believed that whenever a fight was impending, he sent out his special attendants, the shield, the battle, or wish maidens called Valkyries, choosers of the slain, who selected from the dead warriors one of their number, whom they bore on their fleet steeds over the quivering rainbow bridge, Bifrost that is, into Valhalla. Welcomed by Odin's sons, Hermod and Bragi, the heroes were conducted to the foot of Odin's throne, where they received the praise due to their valor. When some special favorite of the god was thus brought into Asgard, Valfather, father of the slain, as Odin was called when he presided over these warriors, would sometimes rise from his throne and in person bid him welcome at the great entrance gate. Wow, met him at the gate. The Feast of the Heroes. Besides the glory of such distinction, and the enjoyment of Odin's beloved presence day after day, other more material pleasures awaited the warriors in Valhalla. Generous entertainment was provided for them at the long tables, where the beautiful white-armed virgins, the Valkyries, having laid aside their armor and clad themselves in pure white robes, waited upon them with assiduous attention. These maidens, 9 in number, according to some authorities, brought the heroes great horns full of delicious mead and set before them huge portions of boar's flesh. You know why the Bible hates pigs. You hear this? They set before them portions of boar's flesh, upon which they feasted heartily. I'll just throw in there real quickly. You read the only information about the Druids. I think it's Caesar, Julius Caesar. He says something about that they think that the best animal to eat nutritiously for your body is a wild pig. And I was like, damn, that's why the bankers hate them. And may all our animals be blessed with respect. May just a wave go out to respect everyone that's eating anything. Thank the thing you're eating. It's in its cycle, it's living and dying. Plants are people, animals are people. We're in the matrix. It's, kill and eat, whether it's plants or animals. It doesn't, they're both people. And we have to do this to survive. They're on instinct, killing each other and eating each other. But let's, become self-aware. Let's become conscious and respect and give a real connection to what we're eating. It can help you. These maidens, huge portions of boar's flesh, upon which they feasted heartily. The usual northern drink was beer or ale, but our ancestors fancied this beverage to chorus for heavenly sphere. This was magic beer, not your regular beer. Therefore, in other words, mixed with MAO, inhibiting plants with DMT extracted. This is a beer used to not be what I mean. They had regular beer, and then they had the magic beer. Therefore, imagine that Valfather kept his table liberally supplied with mead, or what they called hydromel, which was daily furnished in great abundance by his she-goat, Hydrune. What a great name, Hydrune. Who continually browsed on the tender leaves and twigs on Lirad, Yggdrasil's topmost branch. The world's tree, the tree of life. A little poetry here. Rash war and perilous battle, their delight, and immature and red with glorious wounds. Unpeaceful death, their choice, deriving thence a right to feast and drain immortal bowls. In Odin's hall, whose blazing roof resounds, the genial uproar of those shades who fall in desperate fight or by some brave attempt. I mean, this is how warrior, how much just, we'll kill you and take your shit was going on back then. And, these warriors were so venerated because they protect the women and children. They provide for the women and children. And, white people have always been killing each other and taking each other's shit, with grudges. You did it to me, they did it to us. And you can't blame people. If some, say you lived in a county and in the county next to you got a militia and came and through your county and killed a bunch of innocent people, raped women, stole everything, it'd be war for the next 3,000 years. They'd be passing it on, children. These are the motherfuckers that came and just killed our women and children, right? Following the Bible. That old universal God that said, go in there and make sure you get the babes and the suckling. I mean, fuck, don't make sure that if you kill a woman and she's breastfeeding, make sure you kill the baby too. This is what the universal God said, right, Bible? This is Plato's nomad, personified. Fuck you, Plato, and your noble lie. You're a fucking dork. The meat upon which in here feasted was the flesh of the divine boar Seirinir, a marvelous beast, daily slain by the cook Adhirmenir, and boiled in the great cauldron Eldrahimnir. But although Odin's guests had true northern appetites and gorged themselves to the full, there was always plenty of meat for all. Just like Jesus with the fish, right? Except the Christians take it literal. Imagine if I thought this was literal, and you guys would be like, do you think Lord of the Rings is literal too? I do think there's some literal psychic astral messages. But old Christian Snorri Snuggleberg made sure he took out most of the good stuff, right? You can be sure of that. I would like to have like the other 10,000 books of our ancestors, huh? Aldemat, there's some poetry. And here, Menir cooks in Eld. Hermanir, Semenir, 'tis the best of flesh, the pot, but few know what the Einhirges eat, right? But few know what the Einhirges eat. Moreover, the supply was exhaustless, for the boars always came to life again before the next time of the next meal. The miraculous renewal of supplies in the larder was not the only wonderful occurrence in Valhalla, for it is related that the warriors have, after having eaten and drunk to satiety, always called for their weapons, armed themselves, and rode out into the courtyard where they fought against one another, repeating the feats of arms for which they were famed on earth, and miraculously dealing terrible wounds, which, however, were miraculously and completely healed as soon as the dinner horn sounded. Sounds like Venus, don't it? How Maria describes Venus to me. All the chosen guests of Odin daily plied the trade of war. From the fields of fetal fighting, swift they ride in gleaming arms, and gaily at the board of gods they pour the cup of sparkling ale and eat Semenir's vaunted flesh. They like to reenact. I mean, they're doing a magical reenactment of their lives on Earth. That's the point. Not the point isn't that we love to fight and hit each other and beat each other up. It's that they're reenacting every night. This is what they do. They're like, this is what we like to do for fun. And then they feast, and all of this is a magical story where everything is renewed every single day, and they do it over and over again. And I would say, certainly, this is like some kind of reflection of like Venus, that we don't, we don't eat, sleep, and drink. We go into these fantasy worlds to do it. We go into these simulated technological worlds to do it. Whole and happy at the sound of the horn, and bearing one another no grudge for cruel thrusts given in the war, the Einherjar would ride gaily back to Valhalla to renew their feast in Odin's beloved presence, while the white-armed Valkyries with flying long hair like Maria's glided gracefully about, constantly filling their horns of their favorite drinking vessel, the skulls of their finally, I'm sorry, constantly filling their horns or their favorite drinking vessels, the skulls of their enemies. Wow. While the skalds, that's what they used to call us, skalds, sang of war, sang of stirring the Vikings' forays. All day long they were hacked and hewn, mid dust and groans, and limbs lopped off in blood. But all that night returned to Odin's hall woundless and fresh. Such lot is theirs in heaven. Fighting and feasting, thus the heroes were said to spend their days in perfect bliss. This was bliss to them, while Odin delighted in their strength and number, which, however, he foresaw would not avail to prevent his downfall when the day of the last battle should dawn. You see how Odin wasn't really part of it? He was like, here, I created something to keep you very violent people busy. And while you keep yourself busy, fighting each other every day, and and I'm not downplaying the warrior protects the women and children. It's some people sing, but it wasn't Odin's thing. He didn't participate in. He just honored them. He didn't participate himself because he was an artist. And you can't be a jack off of all trades. You can try to be, but in the world we come from, we really do we kind of do things to their fullest and then maybe move on. Fighting and feasting, the heroes were said to spend. I'm sorry, I read that. As such pleasures were the highest a northern warrior's fancy could paint. Right, these pleasures. It was very natural that all fighting men should love Odin, and early in life should dedicate themselves to his service. They vowed to die, arms in hand, if possible, and even wounded themselves with their own spears when death drew near, if they had been unfortunate enough to escape death. Do you hear that? On the battlefield, and were threatened with straw death, as they called decease from old age or sickness. Damn, they would straight up kill themselves before they ever died of old age or sickness. Wild. To Odin, then true fast carves his fair runics, death runes cut deep on his arm and his breast. In reward for this devotion, Odin watched with special care over his favorites, giving them gifts, a magic sword, a spear, or a horse, and making them invincible until their last hour had come, when he himself appeared to claim or destroy the gift he had bestowed to them. And the Valkyries bore the heroes to Valhalla. He gave to Hermod a helm and a corset, and from him Sigmund a sword received. Right? He's given these magic things. Sleipnir, the horse. When Odin took an active part in war, he generally rode his 8-footed gray steed Sleipnir and bore a white shield. His glittering spear flung over the heads of the combatants and was a signal for the first fray to commence. And he would dash into the midst of the ranks, shouting his war cry, Odin has you all, Odin has you all. And Odin donned his dazzling corset and his helm of gold and led the way on Sleipnir. At times he used his magic bow, from which he would shoot 10 arrows at once, everyone invariably bringing down a foe. Odin, it's like a superhero. Odin was also supposed magic bow. This is Sagittarius, hitting the bullseye. Odin was also suppressed to inspire his favorite warriors with the renowned berserker rage, which enabled them, although naked, weaponless, and sore beset, to perform unheard of feats of valor and strength, and move about as with charmed lives. Wild. As Odin's characteristics, like the all pervading elements, were were multi. I don't know what that word is. Were numerous. Also were his names. Yeah, right. Let me read it again. As Odin's characteristics, like the all pervading elements, were multi, so also were his names, which we had no less than 200, almost all descriptive of some phase of his activities. He was considered the ancient god of seamen and of the wind. Mighty Odin, Norseman's heart we bend to thee. Steer our barks, O potent Wotan. Oh, the surging Baltic Sea. The Baltic Sea. The wild hunt, Odin, as wind god, was pictured as rushing through the midair on his 8-footed steed, from which originated the oldest northern riddle, which runs as follows. Who are the two who ride the thing? 3 eyes have they together, 10 feet and 1 tail, and thus they travel through the lands. And as the souls of the dead were supposed to be taken away on the wings of the storm, Odin was worshipped as the leader of all these disembodied spirits. In this character, he was most generally known as the Wild Huntsman, Robin Hood. And when we heard the rush and roar of the wind, they cried aloud in superstitious fear, fancying they heard and saw him ride past with his train, all mounted on snorting steeds and accompanied by baying hounds, and the passing of the wild hunt known as Wotan's Hunt, and raging hosts, Gabriel's hounds, as Gardira was also considered a presage of such misfortune as pestilence or war. Wow. Myths. The Rhine flows bright, but its waves ere long must hear a voice of war, and a clash of spears in our hills, and a trumpet from afar, and the brave on a bloody turf must lie, for the huntsman hath gone by. It was further thought that if any were so sacrilegious as to join in the wild halloo in mockery, they would be immediately snatched up and whirled away with the vanishing host. While those who joined in the halloo with implicit good faith would be rewarded by the sudden gift of a horse's leg hurled at them from above, which, if carefully kept until the morrow, would be changed into a lump of gold. Even after the introduction of Christianity, the ignorant northern folk still dreaded the oncoming storm, declaring that it was the wild hunt sweeping across the sky. Cool. And often times will start, for overhead are sweeping Gabriel's hounds, doomed with their impious lord, the flying heart, to chase forever on aerial grounds. I like that. Wordsworth. That was Wordsworth. Sometimes it left behind a small black dog, which, cowering and whining upon a neighborhood hearth, had to be kept for a whole year, carefully tended unless it could be exercised or frightened away. Wow. The usual recipe, the same as for the riddance of changelings, was to brew beer in eggshells, and this performance was supposed to startle the spectral dog that he would fly with his tail between his legs away, exclaiming that although as old as Brimmer or the Bohemian Forest, he had never before beheld such a uncanny sight. Wow, kind of Trump. The fucking demon dogs like Trump. He's like, oh my God, I gotta leave now. You're so ugly, I gotta leave. And this is coming from the most disgusting human being that you could ever behold. There's no one uglier than that clown faced idiot. Rosie O'Donnell, like you'll have the last laugh. Believe. Look at that. Look at that blob of nothing of McDonald's grossness. That's ain't that America? Look at Trump. As I am old as the Brimmer world, and have in life such a brewing not seen. The object of this phantom hunt varied greatly, and was either the object of the phantom hunt very greatly was either a visionary boar or a white horse. White-breasted maidens who were caught and borne away, bound only once in 7 years, or wood nymphs called moss maidens, who were thought to represent the autumn leaves torn from the trees and whirled away by the wintry gal. You hear this shit? This is wild. In the Middle Ages, when the belief in the old heathen deities was partly forgotten, the leader of the wild hunt was no longer Odin, but Charlemagne. Frederick Barbo, Barbarossa, King Arthur, or some Sabbath breaker like the Squire of Rodenstein or Hans von Hackelberg, who, in punishment for his sins, was condemned to hunt forever through the realms of air. Right. So our people never gave up. They were trying to, but Charlemagne is such a murderer. It's like, God damn, like what the fuck's wrong with us? Even though I'm Irish, I am part German though. As the winds blew fiercest in autumn and winter, Odin was supposed to prefer hunting during that season, especially during the time between Christmas and the 12th night. And the peasants were always careful to leave the last sheaf or measure of grain out in the fields to serve as food for his horse. This hunt was, of course, known by the various names in different countries of Northern Europe, but as the tales told about it are all alike, they evidently originated from the same old heathen belief. But to this day, ignorant people of the North fancy that the baying of a hound on a stormy night is an infallible presage of death, predicting of death. Still shall the last dreadful chase, till time itself shall have an end. And I just want to say, dude, obviously, all of Europe was completely traumatized by we will kill you if you believe in this. We will kill you. We'll burn you alive. What do you say? Still shall last the dreadful chase, till time itself shall have an end. By day they scour earth's cavern space, at midnight's witching hour ascend. This is the horn and hound and horse that oft the lated peasant hears. Appalled he signs the frequent cross when the wild din invades his ears. That's how fucking retarded Europe is. They make the sign of the cross when they think Odin's coming by. Oh my God, Jesus, Jewish Jesus, help me. Then go there. You fucking, you know what? Me and Maria really wish all the Christians would go to Israel. All of them. Then we'll know where all of the uh, dreadful, energetic, boring cunts are. And we could put a wall around it and keep them in there and let the Palestinians be free. And we can, I mean, this is, if you study history and you don't know there's a problem, you're so fucking retarded. You're fucking retarded. I mean, someone like did something, hit you in the head with a hammer or something. I don't know. People are like, are you talking about bankers? Oh, still, dude, I was a million years late to, well, I mean, maybe I wasn't. I was, how old was I in 1991? I was 22 years old. So I think I was pretty on. I got fooled, definitely was fooled. But in 1991, maybe it was, going into 92, because I'm starting to photographically remember. Um, I was just in a bookstore and I just picked up fucking William Cooper's book, Behold the Pale Horse. Never heard of the dude ever. I just was like, this looks interesting. I might have been listening to Art Bell, maybe not. Maybe that was even before Art Bell. I don't know. But it had the Protocols of Zion in it, and it had a lot of stuff about reality. Protocols of the Elders of Zion. I was trying to tell people, you ever heard of this shit? They're like, no, we're dumb Sabbath goy over here. We're the fucking goy. We love them. We're going to lick the dust off their feet. They're like, dude, are you kidding? We love bankers. We lick their dollars. We lick them clean before we give them to the banker. Like, you don't do that? What's wrong with you? I was like, we need to bring back the wild hunt, nigga. The wild hunt, or raging host of Germany, was called Herlathing in England, from the mythical king Herla was its supposed leader. In northern France, it bore the name Mesne Heliquin, from Hel, our Hela, goddess of death, Hela. And in the Middle Ages, it was known as Cain's Hunt or Herod's Hunt. Oh, suddenly we got Jewy. These latter names being given because the leaders were supposed to be unable to find rest on account of their iniquitous murders of Abel and of John the Baptist and of the holy innocents. That's what you were doing, you dumbass retards. You were murdering our holy innocents, turning around and going, but we love somebody else's in faraway Palestine. Traitors, you're traitors to your own people, traitors to your race. Christians are race traitors. No matter what they say, they are traitors to our people and to our race, to the race of our way. And what I mean by race is the way of our people, genetically, DNA, the way of our people, the race of our people. Every single Christian is a destroyer and a traitor to our race. In central France, the wild huntsman, whom we have already seen in other countries as Odin, Charlemagne, Barbarossa, Rodenstein, von Hackelberg, and believe that Rodenstein. I don't think that is Jewish. They stole all the names. I mean, you cannot fucking distinguish this shit because they did this on purpose. Von Hackelberg, King Arthur, Hel, I'm going to say it again, our sweet goddess Hel, one of the Swedish kings, Gabriel, Cain or Herod, also called the great huntsman of Fontainebleau, Blue, Fontainebleau. And people declare that on the eve of Henry the Ninth's murder, and also just before the outbreak of the Great French Revolution, his shouts were distinctly heard as swept across the sky. It was generally believed among the northern nations that the soul escaped from the body in the shape of a mouse, which crept out of a corpse mouth and ran away. And it was also said to creep in and out of the mouths of people in a trance. While the soul was absent, no effort or remedy could recall the patient to life. But as soon as it had come back, animation returned. The Pied Piper, as Odin was the leader of all disembodied spirits. He was identified in the Middle Ages with the Pied Piper of Hamelin. According to medieval legends, Hamelin was also infested by rats that life became unbearable, and a large reward was offered to any who would rid the town of the rodents. A piper in party colored garments offered to undertake the commission, and the terms being accepted, he commenced to play through the streets in such a wise that one and all the rats were beguiled out of their holes until they formed a vast procession. There was that in the strains which compelled them to follow, until at last the river Weser was reached, and all were drowned in its tide. And era 3 shrill notes the pipe uttered, you heard as if an army muttered, and the muttering grew to a grumbling, and the grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the houses the rats came tumbling. Great rats, small rats, lean rats, brawny rats, brown rats, black rats, gray rats, tawny rats, grave old plotterers, gay young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, cocking tails and pricking whiskers, families by the tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, followed the piper for all their lives. From street to street he piped advancing, and step for step they followed dancing, until they came to the river Weser, where all were plunged and perished. As the rats were all dead, and there was no chance of returning to plague them, the people of Hamelin refused to pay the reward, and they bade the piper do his worst. Then he took them at his word, and a few minutes later, the weird strains of the magic flute again arose, and this time it was the children who swarmed out of the houses and merrily followed the piper. There was a rustling that seemed like a hustling, bustling of merry crowds, justling and pinchling and hustling. Small feet were pattering, wooden shoes clattering, little hands clapping, and little tongues chattering. And like fowls in a farmyard when barley is scattering, out came all the children running, all the little boys and girls with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls, the sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls, tripping and skipping, ran merrily after the wonderful music from shouting and laughter. The burglars were powerless to prevent the tragedy as they stood spellbound. The piper led the children out of the town to Koppelberg, a hill on the confines of the town, when miraculously opened to receive the procession, the only closed again when the last child had passed out of sight. This legend probably originated the adage to pay the piper. The children were never ever seen again in Hamelin. In the commemoration of this public calamity, all official decrees have since been dated so many years after the Pied Piper's visit. They made a decree that lawyers never should think their records dated duly if, after the day of the month and the year, these words did not as well appear. And so long after what happened here on the 22nd of July, 1376, and the better in memory to fix the place of the children's last retreat, they called it the Pied Piper Street, where anyone playing on pipe or tabor was sure for the future to lose his labor. In this myth, Odin is the piper. The shrill tones of the flute are emblematic of the whistling wind. The rats represent the souls of the dead, which cheerfully follow him and follow the mountain into which he leads the children, is typical of the grave. And that's part one of Odin. We love you so, so dearly. And we're going to take a little break and come back with a word from our mother, our beautiful mother. We love you. We amor you. And we send out runic healing to you. Oz rune, Noth rune, Uruz rune, Geber rune to you. Isis rune, the Isis rune, the Isis rune to you. We love you. We amor you.
Mama's hands hold the stories of the past, whispered tales of journeys, shadows they cast. Daddy's voice echoes through the quiet night. Don't forget your roots, girl, keep them in sight. In every tear that falls, I feel them near. Roots run deep where my heart finds home. In the swell of the blues, I don't on the road. Through the struggles and the pain, I still stand proud. With every strum of the guitar, I'll sing out loud. Spend my days wandering through the willow trees, searching for a wisdom carried by the breeze. Memories wrapped in every noble tune, guiding me gently like a glowing moon. On a road, who came before, don't lose your way. Roots run deep where my heart finds home. In the swell of the blues, I don't on the road. Through the struggles and the pain, I still stand proud. With every strum of the guitar, I'll sing out loud. Remembering love that will never fade. In the rhythm of my soul, their legacies laid.